The transport shuttle's cargo bay vibrated beneath Dr. Marcus Hayes' feet as it descended through Silva's atmosphere. Pressed against the viewport, he watched the emerald canopy rush up to meet them, a sea of alien vegetation that sparkled with bioluminescent pollen. 6 months into his xenoanthropology contract with Stellar Resources Corporation, and he still hadn't adjusted to the planet's overwhelming beauty. Enjoying the view, Doc, Captain Velez appeared beside him, her tactical suit humming with activated shields. Better get your fill now, we drop in 5 and these hunting runs move fast. Marcus straightened his research uniform. I wasn't informed this was a capture mission. I thought we were conducting field observations. Change of plans, Velez smirked. Regional Director Harlow wants a live specimen, something about investor presentations back on Earth. She checked her stun rifle. They pay you to document, not ask questions. The shuttle lurched as it landed in a small clearing. Marcus steadied himself against the wall, unease settling in his stomach. The corporation's ethical standards had been slipping ever since the discovery of crystalline deposits beneath Silva's forests, deposits that happened to be concentrated in regions where the native fauna they called verdants lived. Masks on, Velez ordered as the cargo door lowered. Sylvan spores'll burn your lungs raw. Outside, the team moved with practiced precision. Marcus lagged behind, documenting on his datapad as the hunters spread into formation. The forest pulsed with life, flowering vines that tracked movement, massive pitcher plants that digested anything that triggered their sensors. Silva was a predator's paradise, which made the peaceful verdants all the more fascinating to Marcus. Movement at 2 o'clock, the point scout whispered into the comm. 3 clicks ahead, moving slowly. Marcus adjusted his scanner. The readings showed complex neural activity, much more than simple animal responses. He'd been arguing for months that these beings deserved further study before classification, but Resource Acquisition wasn't interested in research that might slow extraction. The hunting party crept forward, and Marcus saw her through a gap in the luminous foliage, tall and slender, with skin that shifted between deep turquoise and violet. Bioluminescent patterns flowed across her body like liquid starlight, responding to the environment. She was gathering crystalline fragments, examining each with careful precision. Perfect specimen, Velez whispered, deploying nets in 3, 2. Wait, Marcus started to say, but the energy nets had already fired. The verdant female's body convulsed as the containment field engulfed her. Her luminescence flared in distress, patterns racing frantically across her skin like emergency signals. The crystalline fragments she'd been gathering crashed to the forest floor. Target secured, Velez announced with professional satisfaction. Administer the sedative before she damages herself. Marcus moved forward, transfixed. The verdant's eyes locked onto his, not animal eyes, but intelligent, terrified eyes that recognized exactly what was happening to her. She emitted a series of complex harmonic tones that vibrated through the air. She's trying to communicate, Marcus said, kneeling beside the net. They all make noises when they're scared, the medic replied, preparing an injection gun. Just documented reflexes, nothing in the official classification about sentience. As the sedative took effect, Marcus watched her lights dim, but her eyes remained focused on him until the last moment of consciousness. There was something there, accusation, pleading recognition. It haunted him as they loaded her into a containment unit. Back at the research facility, they transferred her to a reinforced observation chamber. Marcus watched through the one-way barrier as she gradually regained consciousness, her patterns flickering weakly across her skin. We'll call her specimen V17, Director Harlow announced, reviewing Marcus's preliminary data. Perfectly intact, the investors will be impressed. Sir, I have reason to believe the verdants might be. Careful, Dr. Hayes, Harlow cut him off. Classification reviews require substantial evidence and bureaucratic paperwork that could delay operations by years. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Your contract renewal is coming up. Remember your priorities. That night, Marcus returned to the observation room alone. V17, no, he couldn't think of her as a specimen number. The verdant woman paced her enclosure, periodically pressing her palms against the transparent barrier. Her luminescence had organized into repeating patterns, not random but structured like language. When she noticed him, she stopped. Even through the barrier, Marcus felt the weight of her gaze. Slowly, deliberately, she traced patterns of light across her torso, the same sequence repeated 3 times. Marcus realized with sudden clarity that his research was about to take a very different direction, one that would cost him everything if he was wrong, and possibly even more if he was right. He pressed his palm against the barrier, mirroring her gesture. My name is Marcus, he said softly, and I think you're trying to tell me yours. 3 weeks had passed since the capture, and Marcus had taken to spending his nights in the observation room. The corporation believed he was conducting extended research on the verdant's biological patterns. In reality, he was learning to speak with her. Illyra, she had finally communicated through a complex sequence of luminescent pulses that Marcus had painstakingly decoded using frequency analysis software he'd modified from linguistic programs. Her name, the first breakthrough. Tonight, he entered the lab after most staff had departed. Security Officer Dario nodded at him from his station, eyes narrowed with the same suspicion he'd shown since Marcus had requested private research hours. Late night again, Hayes, Dario's voice carried a sharp edge. Director Harlow's asking questions about your methods. Marcus forced a casual shrug. Biological cycles, she's more active during the facility's night hours, probably evolved for nocturnal conditions. Right, Dario tapped his security badge. Just remember, everything in this lab is company property, including research and specimens. Once alone with Illyra, Marcus activated his dampening device, a small signal jammer that created a brief loop in the security feed. It wouldn't hide his presence, but it would obscure his actions for short periods. Illyra, he whispered, placing his palm against the transparent wall. I've brought something. Beyond the barrier, her luminescence shifted from cautious blue to a curious amber. She approached, moving with the fluid grace that never ceased to amaze him. The bioluminescent patterns across her skin formed words he now understood. Friend Marcus, come. He smiled and held up a small device. It's a molecular synthesizer. I've been analyzing the crystalline fragments from where we found you. He paused, guilt washing over him. Where we took you from. Illyra's patterns shifted to a somber indigo. Home forest far, sky crystals sacred. Marcus nodded. I think I understand. The crystals are important to your people. He activated the synthesizer, and a small replica crystal formed in the delivery tray. When he placed it in the specimen transfer port, Illyra's patterns flared with surprise. How company humans destroy crystals, turn to dead light. Dead light, Marcus frowned. You mean the refinement process, they extract energy components. Illyra placed the synthetic crystal against her chest. Her luminescence formed intricate spirals of communication that Marcus's translation algorithm struggled to process. The patterns were more complex than any she'd shown before. Crystals hold ancestors' songs, company humans' silence songs for ever-hunger machines. Marcus felt his breath catch. The corporation had classified the crystals as simple mineral deposits with unusual energy signatures, if they were some kind of cultural or even technological storage medium for the verdants. Your people use them to store information, memories. More than memory, spirit echo, each crystal sings one ancestor's lifetime. When verdant joins great harmony, new crystal forms, circle unbroken. Marcus sat heavily in his chair. They weren't mining resources, they were desecrating what amounted to sacred burial grounds, destroying irreplaceable cultural heritage. And they knew. The classification reports had noted unusual energy patterns consistent with encoded information, but dismissed it as natural crystalline formation anomalies. Illyra's patterns shifted to a tender rose hue as she watched him process this revelation. Marcus Light different from other humans, Marcus Light sees. Over the following days, Marcus smuggled in small recording devices, capturing Illyra's stories about her people. The verdants weren't just intelligent, they were the guardians of Silva's complex ecosystem. The bioluminescent patterns weren't merely communication, but a sophisticated symbiotic relationship with the planet itself. During one midnight session, Illyra's patterns suddenly flickered with alarm. Pain coming, she signaled, moments before clutching her abdomen and collapsing. Marcus overrode the containment protocols, medical ethics overruling corporate regulations. Inside the chamber, her skin felt like warm silk beneath his fingers, her patterns pulsing weakly against his palms. What's happening? He asked, frantically scanning her with his medical device. Away from Forest Song too long, her patterns whispered faintly, body harmony breaking. The scanner confirmed it, her cellular structure was deteriorating. The verdants weren't just connected to their environment metaphorically, they required regular interaction with Silva's specific bioenergetic field. As he administered a stabilizing treatment, the door hissed open. Security Officer Dario stood in the entrance, his face hardening at the sight of Marcus inside the containment unit cradling the alien. I knew something was off about you, Hayes, Dario said, reaching for his communicator. This is a severe protocol violation. She's dying, Marcus snapped. Does that mean nothing to you? It's a specimen, not a person. Dario's voice was cold. Step away now. Alira's patterns fluttered against Marcus's skin, an intimate communication only he could feel. Some humans empty inside, no light. As Dario called for backup, Marcus made a silent promise to Alira. He wouldn't let her die in this sterile prison, wouldn't let her people's heritage be erased for quarterly profits. Whatever the cost, he would find a way to break her free. And as her luminescence briefly strengthened in response to his thoughts, he wondered if she'd somehow heard his unspoken oath. For the first time since arriving on Silva, he felt a connection that transcended research, transcended species, something that felt dangerously, wonderfully like the beginning of love. Marcus spent 3 days in administrative detention for his protocol breach. His security clearance was downgraded, and only his unique expertise on verdant biology convinced Director Harlow not to terminate his contract immediately. Even then, he was permitted to see Alira only under strict supervision. Her condition had stabilized but remained precarious. The medical team had implemented Marcus's treatment recommendations without understanding their significance: regular exposure to crystal fragments from her home region and simulated forest light patterns. They saw it as maintaining a valuable specimen. He knew it was barely keeping her alive. Dr. Hayes, Director Harlow's voice carried through the research lab as Marcus analyzed Alira's latest biometric readings. A word. In Harlow's office, the director's expression was grave. Your sudden attachment to specimen V17 has become concerning. The regional board is questioning your objectivity. With respect, sir, continuing to classify the verdants as non-sentient fauna is scientifically indefensible, Marcus said, sliding a data tablet across the desk. My research conclusively demonstrates language, culture, historical record-keeping, and environmental engineering capabilities. Harlow barely glanced at the tablet. And conveniently, reclassification would halt crystal harvesting operations worth billions. The board finds your timing suspicious. This isn't about money, it's about preventing what amounts to cultural genocide. Be careful, Hayes. Harlow's voice dropped dangerously. Such inflammatory rhetoric could be construed as incitement against corporate interests. That night, using his restored but monitored access, Marcus visited Alira. 2 security guards watched from the corner as he conducted his official evaluation. Her luminescence flickered weakly as he approached. Marcus light returned, thought lost. I'm still here, he whispered, pretending to check readings. They're watching us closely. Body failing slowly, need forest song. Marcus nodded imperceptibly. I'm working on something. After his shift, instead of returning to his quarters, Marcus used his biometric access to enter the corporate archives. His research clearance still permitted access to historical survey data, though he had only minutes before security would question his presence. Deep in the digital records, he found what he needed: the original exploratory mission reports from 15 years earlier. The files were heavily restricted, but a vulnerability in the aging database architecture allowed him limited access. What he discovered made his blood run cold. The initial survey team had documented extensive contact with the verdants. They had recognized their intelligence, recorded rudimentary communication, and explicitly noted their apparent relationship with the crystal formations. The recommendation had been clear: Planet Silva hosts an indigenous sentient species with unique physiological properties. Further ethical review required before any resource extraction. That report had been buried. A second assessment, conducted 6 months later by a different team with corporate security oversight, had reclassified the verdants as non-communicative fauna with instinctual bioluminescent responses. The change had cleared the way for mining operations. It wasn't ignorance, it was deliberate suppression. Marcus copied what evidence he could before the system detected his unauthorized access paths. He barely made it back to his quarters before the security alert sounded throughout the facility. The next morning, he was summoned to a meeting with Harlow and the facility's chief of security. His heart pounded as he entered the conference room, certain they had discovered his data breach. Instead, he found them reviewing footage of Alira. Overnight, her condition had deteriorated dramatically. Your specimen is dying, Harlow stated flatly. Medical says it's some sort of cellular decomposition they can't halt. You have 12 hours to stabilize it before we implement cryonic preservation to protect our investment. Marcus fought to keep his expression neutral. Cryonic freezing will kill her instantly. Her cellular structure can't survive the process. Then find another solution, Harlow said dismissively, or we'll have to settle for a preserved specimen for research purposes. In the observation room, Alira's luminescence had dimmed to faint pulses. The security guards, seeing only a failing specimen, paid little attention as Marcus pressed his palm against the barrier. Forest calling stronger now, her patterns whispered. Soon join great harmony. No, Marcus said fiercely, not caring if the guards heard. I won't let that happen. He worked frantically through the day, ostensibly developing treatments while actually preparing for what he knew must come next. He'd found something else in those original survey files, detailed maps of the verdant settlements that had since been destroyed for mining operations. But one remained, deep in the forest region deemed temporarily unsuitable for extraction due to unstable terrain. If he could get a layer of theirs. As facility lights dimmed for the night cycle, Marcus made his final preparations. He'd spent his last credits bribing a supply pilot to leave a skimmer at the perimeter maintenance gate. The security shift change would create a 4-minute window with minimal monitoring. What he hadn't planned for was Alira's next communication as he entered the lab for his final treatment attempt. Marcus, danger approaching, must save self. He frowned, checking his scanner. What do you mean? The answer came not from Alira but from behind him. She means this, Dr. Hayes. Marcus turned to find Dario flanked by 2 security officers, all with stun weapons drawn. Accessing restricted files, planning unauthorized transport use, and now apparent communication with the specimen. Dario smiled coldly. The evidence suggests you're planning to steal valuable corporate property. She's not property, Marcus said, fingers secretly activating the device in his pocket. I've found proof the corporation has known about the Verdant's intelligence for years. They're systematically destroying a sentient species for profit. Even if that were true, it's not your decision to make. Dario stepped forward. Your research and the specimen belong to Stellar Resources. Behind them, Alira's luminescence suddenly flared brighter than Marcus had ever seen, a brilliant, pulsing beacon that filled the room. The unexpected light made the security team flinch, giving Marcus the moment he needed to activate the device. Throughout the facility, systems sputtered and died as the electromagnetic pulse spread. Emergency lights flashed briefly before also failing, plunging the lab into darkness broken only by Alira's glow. In the chaos, Marcus slammed the emergency containment release and reached for her hand. Through the darkness, her luminescence formed one clear message: together flight now. Their fingers intertwined, human and verdant, as they ran toward an uncertain freedom.